guys, welcome to episode 12 of Bukkit for Beginners. In this episode I'm going to go over classes, subclasses, constructors, and objects. This is one of the most important videos out of all the ones I'm going to do, so if you watch any, make sure it's this one. It's probably going to be long, but it's worth going through the entire thing. So, and I apologize if my voice sounds funny. I just woke up like 10 minutes ago. So alright, let's get into this. Sorry there hasn't been a video in a while. I've been really busy with school and such. So, first I'm going to go over classes in general. So, to do that, a class is basically, it's like I said before, it's a blueprint for objects. For example, this thing right here. This is a logger class. So there's a public class logger somewhere, and it has a constructor in it called public logger, and it takes some parameters, and then it has some code in here. And what this does, notice how there's no void or there's no return type here. This creates a new logger. It's a new logger object. So, actually, this is a bad example. I'm going to use the location. So, let me show you this. So, location, new location is equal to, we're going to make a new location, and we're going to, it takes a world, so we're going to give it world and X, Y, and Z, right? Now, there is a location class in the Bukkit, code in the API, which stands for Application Programmers Interface. If anybody says that word to you, now you know what it means. There is a public class location, okay, somewhere or like that, and in there is a constructor for a location. Oops, I spelled it wrong. The reason this isn't showing up as errors is because you can actually have a class within a class. It's like classception. I don't usually do that because you can have you could theoretically put your entire plugin into one file and have separate classes within the actual file and have it be 600,000 lines long if you wanted to, but I like to break mine up, so does all the other programmers in the world. So you would have a public location, and it would take a world object, maybe we'll call it world, an integer. Actually, we're gonna copy this. We're gonna put this into our own class. Watch this. So we're gonna make a new class. We're gonna call it location. So now, every location object is gonna have a world to it. We'll call it world. It's gonna have a X, a Y, and a Z. So X, Y, Z. Now, let me just import this really fast. World. Now, did you notice how I didn't initialize any of these? That's because you're going to initialize them when you make a new location object. And you know how we do the location there is equal to new, not mu, new location, like that. This, the reason it turns dark reddish is because this is actually an operator. This is it's similar to like the greater than or equal to whatever. What this does, this calls the constructor of this class, the constructor method of this class. So for us it would be public location, and it's gonna when you make a new location, it's gonna take these as a parameter. If you remember right, there was a world. We'll call it objects world. We'll call it like an integer, name it object X, object Z. So there's our constructor. Now, constructor, if you just look at the word, it's kind of common sense. You're constructing an object. The constructor is the method that constructs a new object. So let's see. When someone creates a new location, you're going to want to set the values that they give you to the actual class values. So to do that, you do, for example, we'll do this. Now what this is referring to, this isn't just referring to the class, this is referring to the object of the class. So if I have a location high and a location by, if I do like this dot x inside of high, it's going to give me high's x. If I do this dot x on by, it's going to give me a totally different x value. It's going to give you the x value that's associated with by, just so you're aware of that. This basically just refers to the it's the object of the class. So we're going to do this dot, and notice all of our variables showed up here. We're going to set the world equal to objects equal to whatever they give us. Same thing with the other ones. We're going to set the x equal to the object's x. We're going to set the y equal to the object's y, and so on, and you get the idea. And that's it. We'll just do the z just to keep things nice and pretty. So there you go. So inside of a class, you can also put methods like we've been doing. So for example, here's something I could do. I could make all of these private, so that, because right now if I was to make another class, they could access these variables. So you might not want that. So we could make these private. That means that we can only use them in this class. But you might say, wait a second, Apple, we want other, if we make a new location object, we got to be able to use those. But what you do with that is you create getter and setter methods. You create methods to get these values and also to set these values. So we'll do public. We will return void, and we're going to set the world. And it's going to take a world as a parameter. This is the world that you want to set it to, and we're going to set this dot world equal to the world. So we're setting the world of the class to whatever world you give it. Oh god, excuse me. I gotta eat breakfast. I'm getting hungry. So after that, we'll get the world. We're gonna return a world object. Get the world. And when you get the world, it's gonna return this dot world. So it's gonna return, and notice how the little error went away, because what this is telling you is that, oh, you didn't use this variable. But if we created getters and setters for all three of these, then they would all go away. You want to see something real cool in Eclipse? Watch this. You can create getters and setters if you like hover over it and look in the problems. Watch this. Bam. Done. Oh, they tell you you can actually just return z if you want. I like to put this. I don't think it really matters in this case, but if you're setting it, you definitely have to have you have to be referring to this object of this class. So Eclipse is pretty nice. They let you set up the getters and setters that easy. Like that. Done. Easy coding. So there we go. Let's test it out. Now I hope this didn't confuse you guys, because all I did here is I let it set up the getters and setters for me. So return world. There we go. So for example, if we were to make a my location, it's going to take a world, x, a y, and a z. And when you say this new operator, it's going to go to here and it's going to call this method. So you're going to give it parameters and it's going to call this method and it's going to do all this. So, oh, they wanted to. You notice how they put this.setY? That's because you kept it all private, so they're trying to keep it all like, uniform, I guess. If you do this, you can access the methods that are in that class as well, like setY, setWorld, all that. Those are your methods. So, that is basically what a class is. It's a blueprint for an object. So we can make a location object, and then we can use that to get the X, get the Y, set the Z, you know, get the world, all that. But now I need to go and do subclasses, because a subclass is just like our turtles is actually a subclass. Our turtles class is a subclass of Java plugin. And remember how I told you before how if you see the word extends, just say is a instead of extends. So turtles is a Java plugin. So we're gonna make a subclass of our location. So let's say that we have our location object. The location has a world, an X, and a Y, and a Z, right? Now, this location is just purely for example. Bukkit has their own location that you should use. So this is just to show you guys, I guess. So we're going to make a new class, and we're going to call it better location. And this better location is going to be a subclass of our regular location. So we're going to extend location. Now it's going to tell you to add a constructor, because when you make a better location, since you extended this and this has a constructor, you need to give this your subclass a constructor. So what we're going to do, like better location. You can actually do this thing when you create a constructor for a subclass, or when you have a subclass of something at all. The way that you access the superclass is what they call it. So the superclass for better location would be location. So the way you access that is kind of simple. Instead of doing this for referring to this for this class's object, you do super to refer to the superclass. So super is referring to location. Notice how super is going to have all of our values in it. Get X, get Y, get world, set Y, all that. So you can also call a super constructor. So what we're going to do, our better location is going to have all the stuff that a regular location has, but it's also going to have a pitch and a yaw, and maybe it'll have a name. I guess we'll give it a name. I don't know. So our better location is going to have a world. It's going to have an X, a Y, a Z, and it's also going to have a pitch, a yaw, and a name. Boom. But we don't want to make our own constructor for these four, because we've already set these. So there's something really cool that you can do in Java. You can call the super, and you can call the constructor. So we're going to give it the world, the X, the Y, and the Z. So, oh, I know. So what this is doing is when you create a new better location, you're going to give it a world, an X, and a Y, and a Z. Now it's going to pass, and you're also going to give it these two, or these three, I'm sorry. When you create a new better location, first it's going to go to the super constructor. It's going to go to the constructor of the super class, which is location, and these four values that you pass in for world, X, Y, and Z, it's going to give those to this constructor. And then those are you can get, since it's a subclass of location, these four values, because they're in the super constructor, they also count for this class. So better location is going to have a world, an X, a Y, and a Z, as well as a pitch, a yaw, and a name. So you can see how useful this can be, because you can make one superclass, and then you can have as many subclasses as you want, but instead of having to rewrite the same code over and over, you can just use these values that you set in the superclass. So we're also going to set our pitch, yaw, and name to the things of this class. So we're going to set our name equal to the name that we pass in. Notice how this is blue because it's a class variable. This is black because it's a local variable. It's or a parameter. We're going to set this pitch equal to the pitch, and this yaw equal to the yaw. Now I want to see something really cool. Is here actually first let's make these private, and then the methods that are in the location class are also in the better location class because we extended it. So we'll create our getters and setters really fast for this. Okay, so now that we got there, let's watch this. So we're gonna make a new better location. We'll call it the location, and we're gonna a new better location. We're gonna give it a world, an x, a y, a z, a pitch. Actually, let's actually do it. We're gonna do bucket.getWorld. We're gonna get the world from a name that we give it. So ours will just be world, because this getWorld returns a world object, which is what it wants. You can't just give it a string and try to pass it as a world. It doesn't work like that. So we'll give it 5, 6, 2 for the x, y, and z. We'll give it 40 for the pitch, 70 for the yaw, and my location as the name. Now, if we go to the location, if you notice, watch this. Get x, get y, get z, and get world are all in our better location class. But if you notice, it tells you where they originate. They originate from the location superclass, and we also have the methods that are inside of our better location class. So that is how subclasses work. The same way works with our class right here. If we do this inside of this class, we're referring to the instance of Turtles, which is also an instance of Java plugin. So therefore, that's why when you type this, it has all these get default world generator, get description. These are all in Java plugin. See that? So these are all in the Java plugin code. Now this one right here, plugin base. What that is, Java plugin is a subclass of a plugin base class. So it also inherits those. So you can have subclasses of subclass. You can have one class named John that has 40 superclasses, and John only has one value to him, but he has the values of those 40 other classes. So John's actually a pretty cool guy. So what else do we got here? Plugin base. That's about it. So that is how subclasses and superclasses work. The last thing I want to show you or explain to you guys is the instance of, because I told you that in the past, I think it was the last video or the one before that, that I would explain what this actually means. So now that you know how subclasses and superclasses work, it's also called children and parent. Like it's like Turtles is the child class of Java plugin, and Java plugin is the parent of Turtles. Same thing. The instance of is checking to see if the two values that you give it are, or here let me show you. If actually let's go to our let's go to our player. So we're saying if the sender is an instance of player. Now you might think, oh, I can do that with anything. I can say if I have an integer y. Now why couldn't I say if y is an instance of a player? Like I could, you should be like, oh, I should be able to test that. It's obviously going to return false because an integer is never going to be a player, but why can't I test it? That's because player is not a subclass of Y. The reason that that you're testing if this is a player, because player is a subclass of the sender. So a player, let me make this here. So a player is a sender, but a sender isn't necessarily a player, because player extends command sender. But so your testing is it's pretty useful if you have like multiple subclasses and you wanna test which one it is. We could I forget what the thing is to test for console, but I actually used this in one of my other plugins. It's a shop plugin, and I have a store item class that is it represents an item inside of the store, and I also have a enchanted store item that's a subclass of store item. It has all the same stuff that a store item has, but it also has an enchantment and an enchantment level. And I had to use the instance of to see if the thing that you click on, if it's an instance of the enchanted book item, then I have to do a special enchanted book method to give it to you, to give the item to you. But if it's not an instance of the enchanted book item, then I just do the regular purchase item method or whatever. So when you test instance of, it has to be a subclass of whatever you're testing. So player has to be a subclass of whatever this is, or this has to be a subclass of this to test it. So you might not use that too much, but if you see it, and if you're ever in the situation where you find yourself having to use it, now you know how. So I think that's actually it. This episode didn't run as long as I thought. That's only about 22 minutes, I think. The last one was long. I still apologize for that. That was a long episode. It didn't need to be that long. It was only health, hunger, and health scales. I just got a little carried away. So, I'm gonna go get food, and then I'm gonna come back, and then I'm gonna make the next video. I have the next like 20 planned out. So, get ready for some videos, guys. Hope this makes sense. Thank you for watching.